All right, the last sedimentary rock that I have for you is this one. It's like a little heart. This is chert. Chert is microcrystalline quartz. Chert is common in chalks and in limestones. In the chalks of the White Cliffs of Dover, there are these chert nodules, and they are mostly the result of the when some of the sponges that live in the water or live in the ocean have the structure, the little tiny grains in their tissue called spicules, and they're composed of a siliceous material. It's not quartz, it's not a mineral, but it's made of silicon and oxygen, not crystalline though, so it's not a mineral. But when the sponge dies, over time, that silica, the siliceous material, will form microcrystalline quartz. It will precipitate in a little nodule, and these nodules were very important. We have these in Texas carbonates as well. Some of our Cretaceous carbonates, which are the last time of the dinosaurs, between like 110 million years to 66 million years ago. There was a vast sea that covered Texas, and it had a lot of carbonates deposited because the mountains were far away and not a lot of rivers reached that particular area, so we had a lot of carbonate formation, and undoubtedly there were some of these siliceous sponges, and when those sponges died, their skeletal material eventually formed chert. And of course, chert, another name for chert, is flint. And if you look, this has conchoidal fracture just like obsidian did, and you can see these curved surfaces, and that curvature allows them to break into very sharp edges, and that is then used for arrowheads, spear points, knives, scrapers. This one actually looks like it was worked. It's not an actual spear point or an arrowhead or anything, but it may have been a practice piece, or maybe it just didn't go right and it became trash. So I found this along the side of the road in Texas, and when you see that it has these sort of lines like this, that they don't look random, chances are that some Stone Age person maybe 14,000 years ago was working on this and then decided that it wasn't any good and threw it off to the side. So this is chert, microcrystalline quartz, very common in Texas, in rivers. Also, petrified wood is usually formed of chert. Very important economically during the Stone Age, because of course this would have been traded across the country, because it would have been a very important raw material to form the different tools that people used back then. In Texas, we don't have a lot of obsidian, so most of it's chert. However, in California, where they have a lot more obsidian, they would have used, and less chert in certain areas, obsidian would have been common. And that actually, being able to trace the source rock for the chert or obsidian, that's a way that in geoarchaeology, that is one tool that's used to trace trade routes. So if we find obsidian, say in Texas, and we can find the chemical signature of that obsidian and match it to a volcano in California or on the West Coast somewhere, then we can assume that the people who were living in Texas traded with people who lived on the West Coast. So that's just a little bit of interesting side bits about chert and obsidian as far as Stone Age people go. So chert does not fall into either the siliciclastics nor in the carbonates. It's kind of off on its own. This is a chemical sedimentary rock because it is not derived from land. It is not washed into the ocean or into a lake or anything like that. We generally do not consider it biogenic because the material that makes this up is not actually quartz originally. In the case of sponge spicules, they're siliceous, but not quartz. So they have the ingredients to make quartz, but not the crystal structure. So that means that once the animal dies, its skeletal material is rearranged chemically to form chert or microcrystalline quartz. So even though this has the exact same chemical formula as quartz, because it is microcrystalline and not macrocrystalline or large crystals, we call it chert. But it has the same chemical properties as quartz. We're just being a little more specific. And that's chert.